Welcome back, everybody. Sorry I had to run and go get my cheat sheet here. So our next speaker was not able to be here in person due to some injury, health kind of issues or whatever. We tried to set it up to do it live so she could zoom in. That did not work very well because of the connection issues on both ends or her end. So she recorded her presentation, and I'm going to play it for you in a minute. So our next speaker is, she has researched the crop circle phenomenon for over 31 years, beginning in 1991, and she has personally visited crop circles in England each summer for 27 years. For many of those years, she conducted crop circle tour groups of American enthusiasts who were thrilled to have these adventures. She's lectured and has been interviewed widely on the wonders of crop circle phenomenon, and she is considered one of the leading crop circle researchers and educators in the U.S. She has co-authored the book, Crop Circles Revealed. Her own books also include Alien Experiences, Meet the Hybrids, and Kids' Adventures with E.T.'s Friends in Space. So join me in welcoming Barbara Lamb.
Well, hello everybody. I'm very happy to be with you at this wonderful conference. So I am Barbara Lamb, and I'm a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist and a regression therapist. I'm an author, and I am a long-time crop circle researcher. And that's what we're talking about today. So for 25 years, I have researched crop circles in England every summer. What wonderful adventures they have been. I began going to England in 1990, and since then I have been in more than 1,000 crop circles, probably more like about 1,300 crop circles. I've lost count. And over the years, being very acquainted with the crop circle phenomenon and knowing my way around and driving on the left side of the road, I started leading crop circle tour groups. So I've led quite a number of those tour groups with other people coming over from the United States. I'd meet them at Heathrow Airport, drive them down into Wiltshire County where we would stay, and took them for many, many visits to crop circles and meeting other crop circle researchers. Actually, I learned about the crop circles in 1990 itself, 1990, when I went to a Whole Life Expo, and I saw in the program guide that there was the mention of an upcoming lecture, and it said something about mysterious patterns in the fields of Britain. And it had a funny little picture that turned out to be a crop circle, but I had not heard of crop circles yet. Anyway, when I saw the picture and I heard the title, read the title, Mysterious Patterns in the Fields of Britain, it was like a light went off within me, and I thought immediately, oh, we're getting communication from those out there in space. And that was before I really began working with people who had had experiences directly with extraterrestrial beings. I did not really know for sure the reality that there are extraterrestrial beings. But that was my immediate hit on it, and I went to that lecture. And by the end of the lecture, seeing videotapes and photographs of crop circles from 1990, I said, that's it. I'm going to England next summer and check it out for myself. And indeed I did, and have been checking it out ever since. It's a subject that's well worth putting attention to, I think. So most of the crop circles that we know about have been happening in England, but it is a worldwide phenomenon. Most countries in the world, perhaps all of the countries, have at some time or other had these beautiful patterns laid down in their fields of growing crops. But England seems to be the choice place for the placement of crop circles. Now, crop circles have been happening for many centuries too, as far as we can tell. They would appear in a field, usually a growing crop, and they would appear as a simple circle, maybe even a fairly small circle, but beautifully, perfectly swirled. And then in 1678, there was a newspaper article with a woodcut drawing of a crop circle or an oval circle laid down in wheat field. And it also had a little figure that looked like the devil with a simple little mowing machine. And they called that crop circle the mowing devil. Anyway, there were crop circles happening in the 1700s. Again, simple circles in the 1800s, here and there, not that any official reporting about it. And then up into the 1990s, occasionally. In the 1970s, there were quite a few of these simple circles noticed in England. They were also noticed in Australia, but very often people called them UFO nests or UFO landing spots. And yet, as we look back on it now, we recognize that probably those circles laid down were most likely what we call crop circles. So in the 1980s, a man named Colin Andrews drove along one day after work, looked down into a field, down a hill, and saw a perfect circle laid down in the wheat field. And he was curious. He stopped and he went down into that circle, and he found that it had a special energy about it, and it was swirled so beautifully, so evenly, with every blade of the wheat laid down symmetrically and perfectly, nothing rough or messy about it. And he became very interested. He combined with a pilot named Busty Taylor, and they began flying, looking for and finding other crop circles and photographing them, videotaping them. And so the news began to spread a little bit in England. And it seemed like the more people who paid attention to these crop circles, the more elaborate the crop circles became. And that was an indication that there's some sort of intelligence aware of us here on the earth and aware of our interests. So as more people paid attention to the crop circles, the more elaborate they became. Elaborate, and then more elaborate, and even more elaborate. So by the 1990s, the patterns sort of took a leap ahead in the sense that they were larger, longer, and more complicated. We had what we have called long pictograms, beautiful designs with a long line in them, sometimes angular bars of light, of wheat, and circles and semicircles, really lovely patterns. And so that was sort of a banner year in terms of crop circles. More and more people became aware, as the local newspapers would very often go out and report about the crop circles and show a photograph of them. It's best, of course, to show a photograph from the air because then you can see the whole pattern. So at the end of the 1991 season, the patterns were so astonishing, such as the first fractal geometry crop circle and the long pictograms and the Gaia images, that enough people were paying attention and being kind of excited about this phenomenon. And then the government of England brought out these two men in their upper 70s, Doug and Dave, and got them to go out with stopping boards and ropes, flatten down the crops, and make a fake crop circle. And then the big story was that Doug and Dave had created all the crop circles in England and all the crop circles anywhere else in the world, which was totally impossible and totally untrue. But anyway, there was a big media campaign, especially in England, promoting the idea that all crop circles are hoaxed. They're all fake. They're all man-made. But those of us who really have been involved in researching know that there are some that are man-made each year. A relatively few crop circles are man-made, but most of them are genuine. And by genuine, I mean made by the unknown, mysterious authors, shall we say, or artists. And many of us think that these intelligences that make the crop circles are beings who are out in space and who are able to visit here on Earth and make the crop circles. So very often crop circles are made with beam of light. And then the beam of light has been seen coming from a disc-shaped object up in the sky. And sometimes they're made by balls of light. And they seem to be coming from a flying ship up in the sky. So we do have those indications. So there's been a continual development since 1990 and 1991, development of the designs and development of some of the information that is suggested in those designs. So there's been a development in the complexity of the way that the crop is laid down too, with braiding and like a basket weave in some crop circles, and the creation of little nests made in the laying down crop or little columns of the crop. So there are a lot of astonishing details in the lay of the crop itself, as well as in the designs and the meaning of the designs. There's also been an increase in the healing energies in many of the crop circles. There have been studies done over the years about the healing energies and testimonies from many people who've actually been healed physically from a variety of very difficult physical issues. And that has been very impressive to us. There's also been, over the years, what I call the interactive effect of crop circles. In other words, a small group of people gets together and they meditate and they all picture the same design that they would like to see happen in a crop circle. And many, many times it has happened that when a small group meditates on a particular design, that hours later, that very same night, that design is made as a crop circle. And we know that those are not made by people. So whatever this intelligence is out there, it seems to be reading our thoughts, our wishes, and grants us the wish by making a crop circle with that design. I am very excited about that. And I have participated in some of those experiments, and so have the groups that I've been taking to England. And it's never failed. Every time we've asked for a particular pattern, we'll even draw the pattern on a piece of paper or a napkin or something. And then later that night, while we're all asleep, that crop circle is mysteriously made, and we get to see it the next day. It's very exciting. So overall, there are very few man-made crop circles compared to the genuine ones. And definitely the genuine ones seem to come from some sort of intelligence. These crop circles are creative. They're artistic. They have perfect craftsmanship. I really give credit to the creators of these genuine crop circles. And these crop circles seem to honor us in the sense that they depict some of our very important symbols that we have, particularly religious symbols. Like they know about us. They know about our beliefs that are special to us, and they give us symbols that they know that we use to represent those interests and those religions. And the crop circles give us information about a number of different subjects, about spiritual issues like the flower of life, information about physics, information about different dimensions, about fractals, about geometry, about all kinds of things that we know about. And they are showing us that they know about these subjects and that they honor that those subjects are of great interest to us as well. And it is really wonderful about the healing energies that are given to us in the crop circles. People can really feel a difference. And even if you don't have any kind of physical malady and you go into a crop circle, you would probably come out just feeling good, feeling enhanced, feeling enlightened in some way. Also, the crop circles are giving nourishment to the crops themselves. Those crops that are laid down in a crop circle have been tested many times and compared to growing plants in the same field that are still standing up and growing. And the ones that have been laid down continue to grow too. And they ripen, they come to full maturity. And the seeds of those have been tested compared to the seeds in the rest of the field. And they grow much bigger, stronger, faster, hardier, and more nourishing. So there are those people who study this and claim that if we could have the energy that is used in the crop circles and could use that in all of the agricultural fields in the world, we would have an incredible abundance of nourishing food, more than we do now. Crop circles also seem to be giving energy to the land itself. And another aspect is that the crop circles very often are placed near ancient sacred stone sites. And these stone sites have been neglected over the centuries. They were made long, long ago, and people have not paid much attention to them for the last few centuries. But these crop circles being placed very close to the ancient sacred site seem to have the effect of awakening the energies of those ancient sacred sites. And that's a benefit to anybody who goes to those sites. So They also awaken our curiosity, like people who begin to think about the crop circles, wonder, where do they come from? Who makes them? How do they make them? What are they for? So it gets a lot of people to think in a larger context that maybe there's something coming from space that could be coming to us and affecting our crops in such a beautiful artistic way. So I think that's a really good stimulus. And then some crop circles seem to be giving us deliberate messages, and we will very soon see some slides of some of those crop circles. And we recognize some of the symbols in crop circles, and we recognize some of the messages that seem to be given to us in the crop circles. That's not true of all crop circles, but it is true of many, and I'll show you some outstanding examples of that. So let's go into the slides now. I have a number of wonderful pictures to show you. And we will begin with the title, E.T. Messages to Humanity. And these messages are given, of course, through crop circles. So let's go to slide number 2. This crop circle happened in 1991 in Grasdorf, Germany. And this crop circle was placed very close to one of the German ancient sacred sites built of megalithic stones. And this was an unusual pattern which we had not seen before. People did not recognize, but it looked like some sort of symbolic pattern. And so not only is it a very interesting crop circle, but this is the only crop circle that we know of that actually had right underneath certain portions of the crop circle, it had 3 different metal plates. They were about 12 inches in diameter and 1 inch to 2 inches thick, and they were solid metal. One of them was a gold plate, another was a silver plate, and another one was an amalgam of different metals, including copper. But even more outstanding than that, each one of those plates had the exact crop circle replica, that particular design carved into it. So that was a mystery. And it was discovered simply by a man with one of those metal detectors walking around the field and walking through the crop circle. And at these certain points, the metal detector, rang quite clearly, and he dug down and found the plates. So that crop circle and the metal plates in them with the exact design, that it still remains a mystery to us. So the next slide number 3, is showing 2 of the 3 metal plates with that same design carved into the top. Let's go into the next slide, the 4th slide. And we're going now to 1995. And this is a depiction of our solar system, but with the Earth missing. All the other planets in our solar system are depicted, but not the Earth. So we are wondering, are we getting warned from somewhere else? Are we getting warned about our Earth and about taking good care of it and not blowing it up, not using nuclear weapons to really ruin the Earth? So there's some thought that it's possible that we could not only ruin all life on Earth, but we could really ruin the Earth itself, and it would no longer be a member of our solar system. Let's go to the next slide, slide number 5. This is the crop circle that happened also in 1995. And we recognize this crop circle as a depiction of the asteroid belt. And so that's an example of a planet that used to be a planet. And then, for whatever reason, it exploded or got destroyed and created the asteroid belt with big chunks of that planet. So we wonder if we're being told, again, a warning about taking care of our precious Earth planet, or whether we're being just given a lesson about Earth history, that maybe other planets, in addition to that one, explode or break apart or whatever, and create another asteroid belt somewhere else. So I think that it's wise to take these messages and really pay attention to them and act accordingly. Let's go to the next slide, slide number 6. Now we're getting into the subject of physics, that we are being shown about certain aspects of physics in some of these crop circles. This particular crop circle is a wonderful example of one of the interference patterns that was made as a crop circle. Now, an interference pattern is a very interesting thing. It's the interaction of subatomic particles, subatomic particles. So a good example about this is if you drop a pebble into a pond, the pond will ripple out in circular directions and makes a beautiful circular pattern. And then if you drop another pebble in the same pond, in the same place, those ripples of water will go out, forming circular patterns. And it could be that those patterns overlap or intersect. In other words, the patterns of water interfere with each other. So it's the same thing with physics and subatomic particles, that they move, ripple out, and they can interfere with each other. Next slide, please. Slide number 7. So this is another example of an interference pattern that was made as a crop circle. And as you can see, these interference pattern crop circles are really very complex and perfectly executed. We were absolutely amazed when these appeared. And go on to the next slide, please. Slide number 8. This is another interference pattern. And again, a little bit of variation, but the same idea. In other words, we were given 3 different patterns, 3 different times about interference patterns. So it seems like that whole concept about the way subatomic particles move is something that we probably already do know about, our physicists do, but there's a reason for their bringing that to our attention. And next slide, please. Number 9. So now we're going to another aspect of physics. And this crop circle is a wonderful example of a torus of energy, showing the way that energy moves. And now slide number 10. This slide is a diagram of a torus indicating much more about the flow of energy in that toroidal pattern. And a very interesting thing about that is that when that crop circle was made, on that particular day, there was a physicist, professor named Jim Lyons, giving a lecture about energy at the Glastonbury Symposium. And then, so he was talking about that during the daytime, and that very night, a couple of hours drive away in Wiltshire County, there was this crop circle laid down, as if this intelligence knew that the professor was giving a lecture about the torus of energy, and therefore they laid down the crop circle to let us see an example and let us know that they were aware that this was being spoken about publicly. So let's go on to the next slide, number 11. This is showing the depiction of a wormhole or a portal, possibly indicating a portal to other dimensions, or possibly indicating the way that one could travel through space. Traveling through a wormhole or a portal can be a shortcut for anyone flying away out there in space, really cutting down the time incredibly from one planet to another, one part of the universe to another. So here it's been given to us in a crop on our land to bring our attention that there are wormholes, there are portals. Let's go to the next slide, slide number 12. This crop circle, the same summer, was showing 2 wormholes or 2 portals. Since then, we have known that there have been people who've been really paying a lot of attention to the wormholes for traveling in space, and also the portals from one dimension to another. And it's been recognized that it seems like beings, some of them have been coming to visit people on Earth, coming not only from space in many instances, but coming from other dimensions through portals. So that's a very interesting part of reality. So let's go on to the next slide, please. And speaking of portals, this particular crop circle, we think, may be representing a portal in the sense of a doorway that you can walk into, a doorway to another dimension. So it's very interesting that those crop circles happening on different nights in different places, although these all happened in one area of Wiltshire County, that they all seem to be emphasizing that idea about wormholes through space or portals between dimensions. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Slide number 15. Now, there have been many crop circles that have been predicting events that were coming along in the near future. This particular crop circle in 1999 appeared very early in the season. It appeared in April, and it was a depiction of the forthcoming solar eclipse that would happen in August that year. So it was a prediction that came a few months ahead of the actual event. And then the event did happen. There was the eclipse, many people gathered there in England. That was the best place for seeing that particular eclipse. And they were very excited about that. There have been many other crop circles too that have shown things like sun cycles over eons of time, and crop circles that have shown the great yuga cycles emphasized in India, and crop circles that have shown lunar cycles, also some that have shown both sun cycles and moon cycles. So now we're going on, slide number 16, going to 1999, or 1994, I'm sorry. And this was the beginning of a whole series of about 22 crop circles. They were all on the same theme. They all related to and were depictions of the actual Shoemaker-Levy comet out in space as it was flying through the sky, heading toward Jupiter to collide with Jupiter. Now, this was in all of our newspapers, reports about Shoemaker-Levy comet, and showing it as each piece hit Jupiter out there in space. There were 21 pieces of that whole comet, and there were 21 pieces of these first two crop circles, like the one that you're looking at right now. So anyway, in space, it was heading toward Jupiter and eventually collided with Jupiter in July 1994. And it made a big impact site. And somehow we were able to take a photograph of that impact site. Our astronomers were, with their wonderful telescopes. And then the next slide, please. This is a crop circle that depicts the impact site where the first piece of the comet hit Jupiter. And this design is exactly like the photographs from space of the impact site on Jupiter. Absolutely, exactly like it. And then the whole process went on. So next slide, please, number 18. We could see that there's a continuation of the comet heading toward Jupiter. And this particular one had fewer tails. Remember, I said there were 21 pieces in the tail, and also kind of a head at the beginning of the comet. That's what the comet really looked like out there in space. And each time a piece hit Jupiter, there was a crop circle that appeared that night here on Earth in England, showing one fewer circle in the tail. Let's go to the next slide, number 19. So this shows the same comet heading toward Jupiter, but with only 7 pieces left in the tail. So it's a matter of as above, so below. That as one piece of the Shoemaker-Levy comet hit Jupiter, a crop circle would appear here with one less piece until it was all completed. All the pieces of the comet had hit Jupiter. Next slide, please. Slide number 20. So this crop circle shows the completion of the Shoemaker-Levy comet having hit Jupiter. It's all wrapped up neatly. It is done. And this particular crop circle, again, 1994, August 11th, this was the crop circle that I myself happened to be the first one to discover by riding by that field on the top deck of a double-decker bus, and I could see a depression in the field, which I recognized as probably being a crop circle. And I was able to go back to it after the bus stopped. And I and 3 friends were the first ones to go into that crop circle. What a wonderful experience that was. Probably had been made maybe only 3 hours or so earlier in the middle of the night. And it was all fresh and sort of sparkling and making a little crispy sound to it as well. Okay, next slide, please. Number 21. Now we're going to something quite different, but still, I think, shows that we're being given some messages. This depicts some extraterrestrial writing. There have been scholars that have studied linguistics and studied languages all over the world, and they have studied this crop circle, and they don't recognize it as any of our Earth languages, even languages from the past. So we are assuming that this is probably writing from extraterrestrial beings. And it's a very long, complicated pictogram, probably full of information, and we just don't know how to interpret it, but it's quite wonderful. Next slide, please, slide 22. This is another example, another crop circle that same year, of what we think is extraterrestrial writing. So again, we're being given a message from out there, didn't come from us. And by the way, both of these crop circles were really studied very carefully and were determined to be genuine crop circles rather than man-made hoaxed crop circles. Going on now, next slide, to 23. This is a slide of Oliver's Castle crop circle. Oliver's Castle is not a building. It's a very, very steep hill overlooking a very flat wheat field. There was a young man camping up on that hill one particular night in 1996 in the summer. And he was way up in the hill and he had his video camera with him. And very early in the morning, probably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock or so, it was just beginning to slightly be daylight. He detected something woke him up, and he looked down the hill at the field, and there was a crop circle being made. So he grabbed his video camera, pointed it down the hill into the crop circle, and filmed 7 seconds of footage of the crop circle being made. And what the film shows is that there were 2 balls of light, white balls of light, flying from behind a hedge, flying across the field, and in the middle of the field, as it flew over, a circle was being laid down, and 6 beautiful straight spokes, straight lines, evenly spaced, evenly shaped. And then the balls of light swooped on by, curved around, went behind the hedge again, and immediately 2 other balls of light, or maybe the same ones, came over that center portion of the field. And as that happened, those 6 spokes extended out further with another circle on them, creating a beautiful, even, perfect pattern like a simple snowflake. And that crop circle took 7 minutes, 7 seconds, 7 seconds to make. And it was a beauty, and it was determined to be a genuine crop circle. So this is the one evidence that we have that maybe that we caught the making of a genuine crop circle. So let's go to the next slide now, slide number 24. And this is a picture of Stonehenge in the distance. Stonehenge is on a big, big plain. And then there's a road, the A34 commuter road in southern England. And then on the other side of the road, in the foreground, is a wheat field and a beautiful Julia set of fractal geometry. So that was a wonderful example of one of the kinds of fractals. Now, a fractal is a formula that repeats itself, and it could repeat itself to infinity if you had enough room to do that. So it's a never-ending energy pattern. It could be repetitive over and over in a non-ending loop. So it's repetitive in the sense that at the edge of the pattern, the same pattern could emerge from it. And then out of that emergence could emerge a replica of the same pattern, but smaller. In other words, it could keep on being repeated forever. And we do have examples of that type of fractals in nature. For instance, in water and in coastlines and in plants and in flowers. I think the fern plant is an excellent example of a fractal and the way it unfurls and it grows and it repeats itself over and over. So basically the fractals are showing us how things naturally grow, how they develop. I think it's quite wonderful. So we have this wonderful picture of this fractal, which is called a Julia set. Let's now go on to the next slide, slide number 55. And this is a wonderful picture of that crop circle. We call it the Julia set. It is a Fibonacci spiral, and it's a perfect Fibonacci spiral, so that each circle is slightly smaller than the one before it, and even the little circles standing off to the side are slightly smaller than the ones next to it. So this was a beautiful, very lustrous, living crop circle, full of wonderful energy and visited by hundreds of people who could see it from that commuter road. Let's go on to the next slide, number 26. This is a picture, again in 1996, of the triple Julia set. So 3 arms of Fibonacci spirals, but in this case, they're going in the opposite direction. And I spent a whole day in that crop circle, and I can attest to the fact that every single one of these circles had a different kind of center. Some of them were just swirled right at the ground. Some of them were standing up slightly. Some of the centers were like a whole bundle of wheat still left standing. Some were maybe 1 or 2 stalks of wheat left standing. In any event, every circle had a different center. One was even amazing in that the wheat was formed into the shape of a standing triangle. Quite remarkable, really. Let's go on to the next slide, number 27. So we're skipping ahead now from 1996 to the 2000s and many years later. And here was sort of the ultimate Julia set pattern. This pattern is called the Catherine wheel, and it was over 400 feet wide in diameter, and it had more than 800 circles in this pattern. This pattern was on top of a hill called Milk Hill, and it was laid down during the middle of a very stormy, rainy, windy, muddy night. There was a man camping near the top of the hill in a tent. He didn't dare open the tent or go out in the night because it was so stormy. But in the morning, the storm calmed down, and he got out and he walked across the top of the hill and found this pattern, this huge, beautiful, perfect pattern. And he studied it. He went around and he noticed that except for his footsteps, there were no muddy footsteps anywhere near the vicinity of that crop circle. So we know it was not made by people. So let's go on now to other kinds of fractals. Slide 28. You can see that this is a very different type of pattern. This was laid down in the famous Eastfield in Alton Barnes, Wiltshire. Very large pattern. And each one of the edge pieces, the flat pieces, could be extended to replicate the whole design. That whole design could be replicated to infinity. Next slide, please, number 29. Here's another example of a fractal. There were many examples in 1996 and 1997 of fractal geometry. So we have this one, which you can see is quite different. And then the next slide, too, number 30. This is still another fractal design crop circle. This one happens to be more curvy, and that pattern could definitely be repeated over and over, smaller and smaller, to infinity. Next slide, please, number 31. And here we go into still another fractal. And this one I call the double fractal, because the outside portion, which is laid down, is a fractal, and also the inside portion, which is standing crop, that is a fractal design as well. I mean, how complicated. They get more complex as time goes on. And then next slide, please. Slide 32. This is a trapezoidal shaped fractal. And again, this could be repeated again and again. And the next slide, 33. This too is a fractal in East Kennet, in Wiltshire County. So this pattern is a repetition of squares. So you see the big square in the middle, and shooting it off of it are other squares. And off of those squares, there could be more squares descending in size, and more and more and more. The same idea that the fractals could be extended and repeated, the same pattern over and over. So let's go on to a very different subject now. Slide number 34. In the year 2001, suddenly in Hampshire County, England, there appeared this crop circle. We can't really call it a circle, but we can call it a crop formation, and it looks like a face looking up from the field. By the way, this particular crop circle is placed right in the field, right near the largest radio telescope in Europe, which happens to be there in Hampshire County, England. So it's kind of interesting that this face was there in that field. And many people have wondered about that face. Is that a human face? Or is that the face of one of the extraterrestrials who look very human-like? Or people have wondered if it's the face on Mars. So let's go to the next slide, and I will show you the face on Mars, and you can see what you think. So this is a photo of the face on Mars. And the face on Mars is a very large structure. Some people think it's an ancient carving of a face, like a whole large hill or mountain was deliberately shaped as a face. Some people think, oh, that's just an anomaly. It just, the hill or mountain just seemed to be like that with certain light and shade. But other people are convinced it was a deliberate face. Anyway, we did have that crop circle, and it got us wondering. So let's go on to the next slide, number 36. This crop circle, I think, is extremely important, and it appeared about 10 days later than the face appeared in the same field, not too terribly far away. And again, we might call it a crop formation rather than a crop circle, but it's all the same basic phenomenon. This crop circle is a depiction, the black and white portion of it is a depiction of a glyph that we humans, we Americans, sent out into space from the Arecibo, Puerto Rico radio telescope in 1974. The director of that particular project was Dr. Frank Drake, and he sent this design in a particular form out to the M13 star cluster, because that's one of the closest star clusters to us. So we sent it out not knowing if we would ever get any kind of response or any kind of indication that it received by any intelligence. But lo and behold, in 2001, it seems like we did get a response, because this crop circle, the tan part of the picture here, that is the crop circle that came back, seemingly in response to what we had set out in 1974. So our design, the black and white one, talked about human chemical components of our bodies and human mineral components of our bodies. And it shows our DNA, our double helix DNA. And going on down, it shows a depiction, a silhouette of a man, a human man with a smaller head and a much larger body, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. And then at the bottom, it shows our transmission system, our radio telescope at Puerto Rico, Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Now the other part, the tan part, the crop glyph part, is showing somebody else's, presumably in space, some of their chemical component, mineral component, their DNA. They have an extra strand of DNA that we don't have. And it shows their relation to 2 suns. Ours showed our relation to our 1 sun. And it shows a depiction of one of them, which is a much shorter being with a much larger head in proportion to its body. And then under that, it shows their transmission system, which was actually, that design was a crop circle in the same field the previous year, but we had no idea what it meant. It was just a very beautiful crop circle design. So that whole thing of our sending out that message and seeming to get a response from somewhere in space, it seems, is really outstanding. So let's go to the next slide. And this is showing all that happened in that field that particular time, summer 2001, with the face flanked by the message that we sent out and the glyph that came back from Arecibo. So let's go on to the next slide, number 38. And this is an outstanding crop circle. Really made an impact on many of us. Again, it's not a circular form. It's as if in a picture frame, a rectangle, and it looks like the typical gray alien head, really beautifully laid down in the field of wheat there. And the alien seems to be holding a disc, like a CD disc, for instance, a disc of information. And that information on the disc, it's in ASCII code, but that has been deciphered by a number of different people. And the consensus about that message is that it's a warning to us. It starts out by talking about how they abhor deceit and lies, and that is something to be really watched out for, to be discerned, and that there is a conduit closing that might mean a communication between them and us, but there is still time. So many of us interpret this as a warning to humanity to be aware of the deceit and the lies that are told to us by many of our governments and many other people in human society. And that we really need to be aware of that and pay attention to it and not be fooled, not to just go along with it. So it seemed to be a warning for things that have happened since then, since 2001, when many people have been discovering that their governments have been telling them lies. And I think that we can do some thinking about that for what's going on in the world right now. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, slide number 39. This is completely different. This is a chemical molecule that appeared as a crop circle several years ago. And I am not remembering exactly what that stands for because I'm not a chemist and it didn't mean anything to me, except that it was an accurate depiction of one of the molecules of substances that we have here on Earth. And next slide, please, number 40. This one, I think, is extremely important. This crop circle appeared in the fields of England in May 2020, when, as we're well aware, the coronavirus was spreading all over the world. So this particular crop circle is a depiction of the coronavirus with the spike protein extended from it as if to emphasize, here's the coronavirus, pay attention particularly to the spike protein, because it has been found that the spike protein is in the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus. And also, the spike protein is in the vaccines, or many of the vaccines that we know of. And it also creates more spike proteins once it gets inside the body. So the fact that this crop circle appeared in May 2020, I think is very, very significant. They were really aware of this pandemic going on all over the world, and they knew what it was and the part of it that we had to be particularly watchful about and do something about. So let's go to the next slide now. This is also a slide of a molecule. And this particular molecule has been considered by some who have studied it and know about chemistry, know about molecules. This is considered to be an antidote to the coronavirus, an antidote to cure COVID-19. Now, this molecule is found in plants that grow all over the world. And they grow as a weed. They just grow naturally. In other words, they are plant substances that can cure COVID-19. And they are absolutely easy to get. They're everywhere all over the world. And they are absolutely free. There would be no cost, or hardly any, for the picking and manufacturing from those weed plants a substance that would cure COVID-19. So it would be a whole different approach than the vaccine approach. And we're being given the information that this would be far better for us. This is why attention was pointed out about this molecule found in that particular plant. So there are people who study plants and study molecules and know what that plant is actually. But unfortunately, we have not in the news heard anything about that whatsoever as being something that would save us from COVID-19. But there it is. We were given that message very specifically. So let's go on for just 3 more crop circles of great note, I think, in terms of messages. So let's go to slide number 42. This crop circle is depicting a message, and the message is very simple. No more war. If these standing shapes are interpreted, it comes out to be that they are saying, no more war. We are being told from out there, it seems, from that intelligence, stop waging war. So I think that that should make a really big impact on us, if only our world leaders and those who decide these things could take that message seriously and know that there's something really big behind this, an intelligence that really knows. Anyway, let's go on to the next slide, slide number 43. Now, this is a familiar symbol. You've all seen it, I'm sure, somewhere. It's a symbol for nuclear hazard. So this is a drawing of it, but there was a crop circle that had this exact design in it. So again, are we being warned? Are we being reminded to really be careful with our nuclear material, to not use our nuclear material. And from all of the work that I have done with 2,500 different people in regressing them to extraterrestrial experiences, I do know that many of the extraterrestrial beings are very benevolent, in spite of what you might hear. Many of them are very benevolent, very aware of Earth, aware of humanity, aware of what we're doing here, and being aware of our nuclear proliferation. And they have given messages to many humans that if we start sending off nuclear weapons, nuclear explosions, not only will it be disastrous for life on Earth, but the nuclear proliferation, the expansion of it, will go out and fill up the solar system and all of the planets and stars in it. And even the proliferation will go beyond our solar system. So obviously, they don't want us to start setting off nuclear weapons, nuclear explosions. They don't want it for our sake, and they don't want it for their sake. So no wonder they gave us a symbol for our nuclear material, hazardous nuclear material. So let's go on now to the last picture I'm going to be showing you, slide number 44. And this is a depiction of an eye. We simply call this crop circle the eye. It happened back in 1994. And it was a very crisp, precise crop circle, quite striking, really. And at the time, in 1994, we thought that it was the symbol, because it's very similar to the symbol for one of our major broadcasting companies here in the United States. But as time has gone on, many of us have wondered if maybe this is a symbol showing us something else, showing us the all-seeing eye, that we are being watched. And it is true, since 1994, that there's been much more surveillance happening in many, many countries. England, for instance, is the most surveilled country in the whole world, and we are quickly catching up with them here in the United States. And you know, it's not just a matter of cameras out in the streets or traffic cameras trying to catch motorists who are running a red light and so forth. There is that in plenty of places, but also many claim that we are watched through our own television or through the cameras on our computers. We're tracked, watched in that sense, through our cell phones and many other technological devices that we have that we think are absolutely wonderful. I do, but not with that feature that many, many people are surveilled, watched, tracked, recorded through our own devices that we innocently use. So maybe this crop circle back in 1994 was bringing our attention to being watched. And again, from beings we think that are most likely beings out in space who are incredibly aware of us, even if we're not very aware of them. So that's the conclusion of the slides that I'm going to show. But I'd just like to sort of wrap this up by saying that there are messages in many of the crop circles, even further than the ones I've been having the time to show you. And these messages seem to incorporate our reality, various aspects of the realities that we live, whether we're aware of them or not. And they certainly seem to be emphasizing certain points and bringing our attention to certain things that are helpful to know about, like the physics, the geometries, the interference patterns, the fractals, and so forth. And also these crop circles that seem to be a sincere warning to us. So I think that the creators of these crop circles are magnificently giving us gifts, and that they are, no doubt, very caring, very interested in humanity, very interested in the earth itself. So I'm concluding with that, and thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.